You know what I've discovered in that just now? That the horn obviously gives us a certain kind of support, something to blow on. And because of that resistance and the shape of the instrument, it takes some of the support that we should have more of and naturally takes it on. Though it was much easier to do that on the horn than it was on the mouthpiece until I raised the level of the support on the mouthpiece. So the value of doing this, and this is where appreciation and value are paramount to actual improvement in building a relationship that's consciously knowing what you want and how to get there. So we come to that interesting territory of pressures and resistances and flow. Why do people play their mouthpiece? Why do people talk about air? It's the support of what it takes to have it come out without sounding like it's dropping, off a cliff, for one thing. That the sound actually has a direction. I used to like the image of a flashlight. You turn it on, it just... it's moving right away. So if my body, for example, I know my body extremely well. This little piece of hair is bothering me. In knowing my playing machinery on all three overlays, mental, emotional, physical, I can adjust with knowledge of what's going on and can feel it almost immediately what's needed. And then sometimes you try something, oh, this always works. Well, maybe it won't. And so instead of getting a tizzy over that, getting into a tizzy, you go, okay, what can I do? And this, again, comes with, are you connected to the process and building a relationship with the process through discovery of what is needed to get a desired result? Now I can still feel a little bit at the end of the note. It's not as easy as it is on the instrument, doing it on the mouthpiece. Now I'm going to try another idea, that the notes never stop in between, even though they do. Now I even felt the one on the horn was, I thought, technically better. So when you take the time and talk to yourself, now, not everyone's going to warm to this idea, but for me, it's vital. Because if I'm talking to myself about how to do something and what I'm discovering, first of all, it's easier to explain it to someone else because I've been practicing talking to myself since I was a kid. So, you know, I always used to say to my students, or the people that studied with me, you know, if you saw me practice, you'd go, woo! But I'm free in the practice room. And I think a lot of people are not free in the practice room because these different voices are speaking to them. Gosh, how would so-and-so be doing that? That person's my idol, and I want to sound just like that. So you're using someone's virtuosity as a measuring stick for yourself. Not a bad idea. And so by listening to it over and over again, you try to emulate that. By emulating that, you might eventually become more conscious of what you're doing and what you need to do to get that. Even if it's a little bit closer. Never ignore the little steps of improvement. You can say to yourself, that's a bit better, you know. You already know it has a ways to go, or maybe a long ways to go in your mind. But don't devalue what a little improvement is. What if you'll never get to be as wonderful as a virtuoso as your mentors or your people you look up to as a player? What if? Should you throw in the towel because you can't sound like them? Nonsense. So I've been talking for a bit. My original intention was to just get on and start practicing for you. Let me take that back. Not for you. Just to give you a sampling as best as I can do. You know, I don't know if I'll put everything that I'd be talking about, but I'll see what I can do with this to give you an idea. Okay, so here I am thinking about a particular bonus style of articulation. But what if I added emotion into it? A specific kind. Going towards something and finding resolve. Now within that, I had a very specific direction, which just wasn't based in moving the air. Wasn't just based in make sure you're keeping your air flowing. No. I took that as I was communicating something of how I felt. And that time when I decrescendoed, I stated it, but decrescendoed, not to have a beautiful decrescendo or release that maintained its resonance to the end, but actually to have that feeling of the decrescendo go more and more inside myself. This is always fascinating to me. When I start articulating on longer notes in a legato type way, what does it do? It keeps the direction. Whereas before, in that first phrase where I added emotion to it, that was having the communication be very, very clear and transmissive with meaning. Something that meant something to me. In this last one, I hit that E flat and went, whoa, that's, jumped around like I, slid on a skating rink. So I think that perhaps I should be finding another method. Now, I didn't have to think it quickly. I just immediately started articulating. Because when I articulate legato, that direction keeps up because the tongue keeps feeding it. Not only does it keep feeding it with air, and gives you a sense of direction, because it also creates a rhythm, da, 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 da. But the tongue action itself takes some of the burden of the embouchure and makes it lighter. So you think, what kind of a burden on the embouchure is doing that? Well, it depends what's happening. If it wants to shake a little bit, okay, or if it just doesn't feel that focused, the tongue, in its articulated mode of moving forward, creates a circumstance where the embouchure subtly changes its shape. Subtle, all right? And the vibration comes together. And the tongue actually acts as a tool that directs the air. It actually directs it. And now what I can do, okay, I'm going to take the tongue away now, but I'm going to keep the forward feeling of the tongue going, actually physiologically, move it closer to the teeth. Not keep it back just to keep the sound open, but actually keep it more forward in my mouth. Now, for me, that helped a lot. The tongue lost the sound. I felt maybe lost a little bit of the outside resonance. I don't know if you could tell that. Kind of shrunk it a little bit. Subtly changed the pitch maybe as well. And so now I'll say, okay, let's try a vowel. Now that vowel is not used too much in playing. I was not thinking ah, which in the state of my embouchure right now feels that would be too dispersed, too open, and encourage the embouchure opening a bit more. So what I did was say a. Actually, a. And even though the a sound comes from the back, a, ah, the mouth is more closed. And the tongue is closer to the teeth, at least in my case. Now this brings up something very interesting. Stability. Evenness. The sound having a stable, even quality when we want it to be. There's many different physiological conditions that would make it not want to be that way. Oh, people say, I'm going to play it on my mouthpiece. Of course, that helps because, again, mouthpiece playing, to create the vibration, you have to do more of the support. Remember the F to D I had to use more to support, but also the embouchure needs to feel itself in there. It's making up for the fact that it can't rely on the horn to lean against. So these are incredible laws of nature. What about if I thought of the ocean on these notes with a wind going right along? I'm on the shore looking out at the ocean and the wind is coming from the back of me. Let's try that. Now, I love the vision, but it actually totally didn't work. Now, what if I thought of a stream, going against the rocks? Definitely worked better. It adds more grip to the sound for me. The E flat doesn't feel that stable, to be really honest. So there's many different things I could do to make that more stable. I could start glissing it. I could start flutter tonguing it. And we all know that sometimes when we do that little piece of hair. Here, how's that? So to try to control it so much, I'm just going to let it be for a second. But that letting something be is a very important part of practicing. So the way I'm talking to you, even though I'm looking at you right now, I talk like this. It's not much different. Where it gets different is where I start thinking about how does this relate to life itself. So a connecting process means you're connecting your playing to other things on its sympathetic resonance. That's what it means for me. So I have a close relationship with nature and the natural laws. And so I can think of all sorts of things, like the stream, as compared to thinking of the ocean. Feels too big for me right now. And there's many reasons for that, physically. So I can always find something in nature. I could use different colors. I could use different instruments to think about. So it's connecting and finding different places where I'm not going to run out of ideas. But because I have a relationship with many different things in nature, I will not run out of ideas. If you just throw random things at yourself, oh, that worked. Okay, are you going to use it to increase the efficiency and productivity of your practice? And then you will start to discover differences between different mindsets, different things that you're connecting to. And you'll be able to say, oh, I know it'll help with that. And then if it doesn't, you find something else that's on a sympathetic resonance. So, let me hear what this sounds like. I hope it was useful. If not, it's okay. But I would ask you the question, did you try it?